So TicTac's going to have a hard time getting that mage through now.
Yeah, he was just saying right before the set that he needs to get that win with the mage out of the way, and once that is in the clear, then he should be a bit more favored because his decks are generally built greedier than Sequinox's. So, as we were saying before the game as well, the paladin versus shaman matchups is one of the most skewed in favor of the shaman, and looks like we're going to see that right away here.
Yeah, and TicTac has just got unlucky here, honestly. He was talking about, because the series is so lopsided about him trying to get his mage through, he was trying to get, you know, some kind of read on what Sequinox would lead out and then try and counter that and bring the mage out at the right time. But as with Conquest lineups in general, it was really impossible for him to work out any kind of like mathematical advantage. So he actually just asked the admin to give him a number between 1 and 3, and he's ended up queuing Paladin first.
Actually,
so.
I'm quite confused who queued what, because the label for TicTac is Sequinox's name?
As far as I know, TicTac said that he RNG'd his opening deck and he got Paladin. So I'm pretty confident TicTac is on Paladin, it's just the name.
Yeah, we've just got the cameras flipped, actually. The names are correct. So, I got kind of confused here.
No, other way around. The cameras are in the right place, the names are
okay, my bad. Alright, so the shaman started with
Alright, yeah, let's just go with that. That's easy, we can't get that one wrong.
Makes perfect sense, and seems like a good time to just drop this Mana Tide here, get that draw going.
Yeah, I like it. Going first, the Mana Tide can always run into Coin True Silver, but that's going to be a threat no matter when you play the Mana Tide. At least this way you force to burn the coin on it. Any other way, that Mana Tide is sticking around and picking up big value, which is a huge win for Sequinox in this matchup. In a matchup where, like you said at the start, is already a pretty big win for him because of just how easily he can deny N'Zoth value overall with Shaman.
Yeah, so it was also a big deal that the shaman rolled a 1/1 totem, which meant that he was able to trade with the paladin hero power, thus protecting the Mana Tide. But now it's going to run into this Doomsayer, and there's no immediate answer, so looks like it's just going to be another hero power pass, which I expect to see a lot of in this set.
Yep. We are now getting there. TicTac's name is under TicTac's camera, but Sequinox is not from Belgium. So we're getting somewhere. We're getting close, guys. All right.
Reporting for duty.
Here, a power pass again from TicTac. Yeah. You are going to see a lot of that with N'Zoth Paladin, pretty much no matter what the matchup is.
Just waiting on the icons and the flags to be switched now. Right, so a very key part of this matchup is the fact that the shaman runs double devolve and double hex, which are just really powerful at denying the whole point of N'Zoth, which is to resurrect Cairn and to resurrect Tyrion. And once those get hexed, N'Zoth is essentially a 10 mana 5/7.
Right. Yeah, most decks, most control decks really struggle to push through N'Zoth Paladin just because even though there aren't that many natural death rattles, once you've gone through Getaway Kodos and Redemptions and the extra potentially Tyrions from Stonehill Defender, they get a good N'Zoth board pretty much no matter what. But as you said, Shaman is probably the one class in the game that just has enough tools to continually deny things, because one Hex completely ruins not only just a Tyrion, but a Tyrion with a Redemption or a Tyrion with a Getaway Kodo. Like, that just takes that out of the equation completely.
Right here, so that actually chooses not to coin out the Spike Ridge Steed and deal with the Mana Tide Totem, and I think this might be kind of playing into a fatigue game plan, just kind of leaving the Mana Tide up, which Sequinox will have to play a bunch of other things to not overdraw, but he might not necessarily want to, because you want to save the Spirit Echo for a better board that gets you more value, so interesting to see how this will play out later.
Yeah, mid to late game I do actually kind of like leaving Mana Tides around if they're not an immediate threat to you, like if they're not already low on resources in hand, for example. The first is the fatigue reason that you said, but secondly, they also just have to continually dump cards from hand, which means they're overextending into your equality clears over and over again, right? Because they can't just sit back and just play 1 or 2 threats at a time. They've got to keep developing.
Yeah, absolutely. And now Sequinox has played the first minion that kind of presents some damage that's relevant on board, which is the Thing from Below. And TicTac has no easy answer for it, but he does have an Aldor if he wants. He's also got a Spike Ridge Steed, which won't be able to deal with the Thing from Below, but he could trade into the Hot Spring Guardian with both his minions.
Yeah, the Spike Ridge Steed is reasonable. The trades on the board, as you said, are okay, and then the 3 attack into the 5 at least sets up for a Consecration for him on a following turn.
Yeah, that could be a thing.
But Aldor and Chill just seems very reasonable as well.
Yeah, Aldor and Chill. That's something you learn here in Pattaya. Okay, so Rope is burning. What's it gonna be? There's a Tarim sitting at the far left here, but it doesn't seem very nice to just buff everything on your opponent's board except for the thing below. Alright, so the first devolve is in hand for Sequinox here, and honestly he doesn't really have to use it. Like, this thing from below trades pretty well into the 3-5. The 2-6 that comes out of it is no immediate threat, so he could choose to maybe develop a Stonehill defender and choose something high value to get out of that.
Problem is so he has 10 in hand right now, right? And Stonehill will replace itself.
That's true.
So
He could follow up with Jade Lightning, which will clear up the 3-5 pretty nicely, but he just decides to go for the devolve and push that 5 to face.
I'm not sure about this. My fear with this is that you don't actually have a Hex in hand right now. Like, that's your only Death Rattle denier in your... Never mind. That's your only Death Rattle denier in hand at the time you made the play. And now this is the time in the game where Ken and Tyrion are going to start slamming to hit the board, right? And you need to kind of deny the value of that N'Zoth.
Yeah, exactly. And from TicTac's perspective, this might be the best time to coin out the Tyrion now that, like, it's not getting any better later. The longer you sit on the Tyrion, the more likely that Sequinox has already drawn one of those 3 remaining answers. Unfortunately for TicTac, if he does that, then it's just going to run into Hex, but you can't blame him for going for that. Otherwise, he could maybe just drop the Karen. Curator, not too enticing with that many cards in hand. Aldor and Chill still a thing?
Possibly? Depends how greedy he wants to get here.
Yeah,
It looks like he's going to be Aldor and Chill.
Follow with the Doomsayer maybe, or just hard pass?
You can get away with Doomsayer here. Like small increments of damage are actually kind of hard for Control Shamans to do because they don't run Flame Tongue, which is usually the most efficient way for them to do small increments, but it would just be, like, spell damage Maelstrom would do the job,
yeah,
right?
And possibly Jade Claws, I believe.
Yeah.
So, he chose not to go for the Doomsayer though, and now Sequinox can start piling on the Jade train.
Yup, there we go.
With his own Manatite.
He
Very
knows what's
good,
up.
yeah. Definitely good foresight from Sequinox here, knowing that he can't draw too much, but he already has enough value on board and in hand to get away with killing off his own Manatite.
And this is solving so many problems, right? Like, step number 1, he's realized that TicTac is thinking about fatigue and he's playing around that. Secondly, if you just look at the makeup of his hand right now, like, he's still at 9 right now, and he has Spirit Echo, which is a card that's going to fill his hand up. He has Stonehill Defender, which is going to replace itself in the hand, like, twice over on each. So there's no way he can play this game with a full hand for the rest of the game, right? Like, he has to deny that Manatide so he frees up space.
Right, so now he's just thinking about whether to play this Jade Spirit. I wouldn't mind it too much, even though it seems like overextending. It's just the fact that he has so much value in hand already. Oh, looks like the Water Speaker to heal up the Halazil might be a little bit better to deal with maybe some smaller damage AoE, something like a Pyro Consec.
Oh, you're a Consec person.
Oh.
I've never cast with a Consec person before.
How am I supposed to say it?
I mean, you're welcome to say it however you like. It's just the only other person I've heard, of common casters that says it that way is Noxious, I think.
Alright.
Other people just say Conk.
Oh, Conk.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Pokemon. Conkeldurr or something. Well, anyway, at least I'm not a devolve person.
That's true. Yeah, no one likes devolve people.
It's devolve, guys.
Yeah.
Alright, so TicTac now faced with a threatening board and no equality in hand to deal with it, so he's staring down 9 damage and can only effectively deal with the 0-2 and the 1-1 with Consecrate. Are you happy? And he does have Karen and Tyrion in hand, which are the threats that we were saying might have been better to play early because, yeah, it just, the longer you sit in it, Sequinox has more chances to draw into Hex, but TicTac seems to be going for this as greedily as possible, seeing some alternate route to try and maybe outvalue this.
It's possible. The only other thing I can think with, like, being greedy with Ken and Tyrion is that he might have got the opposite read. Right? Like, when the Devolve was used, I said, well, this is weird, because he doesn't have a Hex or anything else in hand.
That's true.
Right? Like, TicTac can actually come at it from that thought process and say, okay, there is no way he uses the Devolve there without a Hex.
Doing this Halazil doing a lot of healing for nothing. Feels bad. But, the Doomsayer just gonna be gone very easily, and Sequinox is very comfortable just to hero power or maybe play a Stonehill and just keep pushing for a little bit at a time because it's not like TicTac is doing anything to threaten him otherwise.
It's true. These Spirit Echoes are just kind of irritating right now. You're in serious overdraw town if you jam any of these Spirit Echoes anytime in the near future. And again, this is kind of the problem, and I really like the way that TicTac is playing this. Like, he's being greedy with everything. I like how greedy he's being with the board clears. I don't like how greedy he's being with the death rattles. But the greed with the board clear is actually putting him in a really, really great position, making Sequinox's turns really awkward because he doesn't want to overextend, but at the same time he needs to get cards out of his hand so he can start pulling like the real value triggers on Spirit Echo.
For sure, and actually just the fact that he's leaving all these tiny minions up that barely do any damage, it means that Sequinox can't even deal with his own board unless he wants to drop a Volcano, and that means that Sequinox would be spending pretty much an entire turn to kind of wipe up his own mess and make space for the real big boys and the threats to come out. So double Consecrate drawn for TicTac now, and the way he's been playing, I wouldn't be surprised to see him do something very slow again this turn. Might be time to drop the Tyrion.
Well, I feel like it's time to get something hexed. You'd rather get the can hexed if you were going to,
That's
right?
true,
So I guess
yeah.
you can lead out with that.
Options.
Again, the fact that he's been able to neutralize with double Aldor has been like double Aldor is like the best stalling draw you can get with N'Zoth Paladin. Like when you don't actually want to use your AoE, double Aldor is what you want to hit every game, right? Because it gives you so much time. So the fact that he's done that, like he can just can hero power this turn and take what, like 7 more next turn. Like that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, for sure. And if we look at the deck sprites, actually it makes it look like Sequinox's deck is a lot thinner than TicTac's, but not actually sure how many cards are left. So they're deciding to play out the Curator now and draw into Kodo and Drake.
Flavor as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Kodo and the Drake being one-ofs in the deck.
Ooh. Wait, you play the secret, right? So that's 10 in hand now. Uh-oh.
Bit of a misstep there, but it seems like he has a lot of the decent threats in his hand, but it would be really devastating to overdraw something like an Equality.
And actually thinking about it, like if he's taking Getaway Kodo there, which is the secret you want to take in this matchup most of the time, like if he plays it, he's just getting a minion back in his hand,
true.
and then he overdraws anyway. So then you have to go back and question why you're playing Curator in the first place if it puts you in that awkward position the whole time. Kind of weird. I feel like we should have played some death rattles this game, TicTac. I don't know.
Alright, so Sequinox again with the mediocre threats on board, but slowly and surely dealing the chip damage to TicTac's face. He would really actually love to be able to drop one of these Jade Spirits to get at least the 3-3 Jade Train going, but there's just no space on board for Sequinox, and TicTac is perfectly fine with that. He hasn't drawn into his Rag Lightlord or either of the Forbidden Healings yet, so that could get a little bit dicey because the chip damage does add up eventually. Right, an insta-pick on the Alakir here, but it has to be Speak of the devil.
Oh, you can smile, TicTac, but you know you would be flaming yourself right now if you were on Twitter watching this.
That is a sick burn. I feel like you've been holding that in for the right moment.
A good meme is like a fine whiskey, Gia. You have to let it age in the barrel.
Alright, let's not push that one too far. So, Primordial Drake in hand for TicTac is able to clear up most things, but the way that he's been playing is like he doesn't really want to clear out the board so much because this is just going to leave a bunch of space for Sequinox to redevelop stronger than ever moving forward. But he's actually going for the double clear now. The fact that one Equality was overdrawn and he has the Pyro in hand means that these Consecrates can be used up already because the other Equality just goes with the one remaining proc in the Pyro.
Curious, because it looked like a decent Primordial Drake turn to me, and if TicTac is really like fixated on not getting his Death Rattles hex, then he has to start developing other big threats to try and bait them out, right? Primordial Drake is about as big as it gets.
So curious to see this Alakir coming out here rather than something like double Jade Spirit or something like that. Even the Fog Keeper, because TicTac has played both Aldor.
That's true.
Yeah, well, Rag Lightlord definitely is something that TicTac has wanted to see as he's getting pretty low. But the thing is, no Hex has been played yet, and any of his big threats are essentially just doing nothing.
Right. But the way TicTac's played this, though, he'll take a Hex on this Lightlord all day, right? Like, I think that will actually make him happy in this position.
So it's up to Sequinox to be able to draw the other one before the Tyrion gets played. So Aya and Jade Spirit, a bunch of good threats available here, but it's probably gonna be a Hex on the Lightlord. Actually, he could actually just try and roll Spell Power and use the Jade Lightning to be very greedy with the Hex.
That would be insane, yeah.
And even if he doesn't, I don't feel like you would feel too bad as Sequinox to double trade into the Rag Lightlord and use the Jade Lightning and your Alakir just to save the Hex in hand.
How big are his Jades right now, do you remember?
I think 4/4 will be up. Yeah.
Okay.
3/3? 3/3. So, Aya and Jade Lightning is looking better to me the more I look at it. Yeah, 3-3. Oh, actually going for the Spirit Echo. I'm gonna leave the Light Lord with a bit of damage, okay? Kind of a halfway play, just making sure that TicTac will not get his healing on the face guaranteed.
Sure. The breakpoints here actually line up really nicely, right? Like if the Rag heals face, then it's a 5 and it's contested by the Aya, which is good for you. And even if the Rag heals itself, like the second hit of Alakir and Aya will take care of the 8 perfectly anyway. So there's no real like bad way the trades can go here. And TicTac only runs 1 spike reach speed, right? So it's not likely this is always impossible for this to get buffed out of range again.
Right, so Alakir gonna return to Sequinox's hand, and it's a decent chunk of burst. One thing that we neglected to mention is that Sequinox runs a Bloodlust in this Shaman, which seems extremely out of place in here, but the way that it works is that TicTac has one other thing to be playing around all game. So in that sense, it could be a psychological threat, but in theory, looking at the deck and how slow it is, Bloodlust doesn't necessarily make sense, but we all know Sequinox is fond of making weird deck choices and has been rewarded for it in the past, so let's not judge a book by its Bloodlust right away.
Something I wondered about, because it seems more powerful to do that kind of thing in like a hidden deck list format where you can just like surprise Bloodlust them out of nowhere. But it's something that I first heard like George Z talk about in revealed tech list tournaments, where he was putting like a Leroy in decks that don't usually run Leroy.
Just to be like a fireball in a different deck?
Right, but it was, the point of it was that because deck lists were revealed, he felt people would be too scared of it and play around it too much, and he would get extra value out of that. Yeah.
So Sequinox being relentless with the value train, getting the Aya back in hand. TicTac does not want to see that. It looks like his only hope to win this matchup is to win the fatigue game, but Sequinox is able to put down a decent amount of damage every turn, so TicTac gotta think of something new, like drawing the other equality. So is Sequinox going to choose to hold this thing from below in respect of the second equality?
I think you do, because you don't want to let TicTac pop the can, right? If you're not going to hex it, I think you want to delay the can dying, give yourself time to find second hex, second evolve. That extra turn is actually kind of beneficial for you.
Definitely true. Like, Sequinox actually just doesn't care about hexing these things. It's only Tyrion. That frog is reserved for Tyrion and nothing else.
Yep, I like this. Just holding on to the 5/5. With 1 equality and 2 consecrates already gone, like the equality was burned, the 2 consecrates were used, I don't think he's too worried about overextending. That's not why the minions are being held back here. It's just like stalling that can out for as long as he can. I think that's more the game plan.
Yeah, for sure. And TicTac can actually proc his own Cairn using the Primordial Drake here. And looks like he's going to go for that. So at least he will be getting 1 Death Rattle at the minimum out of the N'Zoth.
And actually thinking about it, that Primordial Drake is from Curator, so Sequinox knows it's there as well. So if that was his plan, then he's overthought something somewhere along the line.
Not too much to worry though, because there's still a second Devolve in Sequinox's deck as well. So he can go for a clear on the Primordial Drake using Maelstrom Portal and probably drop Aya as well, but honestly, even if he didn't go for too much of a clear, I wouldn't be too worried as Sequinox, because it's not too much damage on board yet. Ooh, and going for the portal first if he plans to play minions. Okay, so Drake returning to the hand, and that's actually quite a high roll off of the portal. Crystalline Oracle, was it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so, especially when your opponent's deck is as high value as the Zoth Paladin, right? Like suddenly that becomes a lot better.
Yes. We do know that most of the high value cards are already in hand or have been played with TicTac, but nice to see a little bit of a priest card coming out from Sequinox, just as an Easter egg since he couldn't play the deck itself. Alright, so Ivory Knight is the draw for TicTac here. Any spells that could kind of get him out of this rut?
Well, he can find that quality that he's missing from his deck right now.
Oh, true.
That would be helpful.
Compensation. Dino Size for Sudden Burst to kind of contest your opponent's Bloodlust Psychological Wars.
Don't think it's an eye for an eye matchup, I can tell you that much. I don't think it's a lay on hands matchup, because TicTac's clearly set himself out to have the fatigue advantage in this game, so just purely by PoE, he's got Dino Size.
Second Sunkeeper seems good as well. I like how Sottle went for the logical explanation for Dino Size while I went for the meme explanation.
See, there it is. Found the second evolve.
Okay, that's probably going to be saved for post N'Zoth. Maybe not. to deal with the Karen that comes out of it, but you don't really want to devolve N'Zoth itself.
Right. Yeah, that's actually almost always a huge buff, right? Like 9 mana cards smaller than a 5/7. Tortolan Primalist is only 8, right?
I'm not quite
Okay,
sure. That's a
alright.
card that I have not seen play. I don't cast enough games to see that played. Anyway.
Do you play Arena?
No.
Okay, alright.
Alright, so this Jade Lightning can come down along with Aya, and the 3/3 can trade into the Bane Bloodhoof for a full clear. And it seems like Sequinox has been holding back with his threats for a while. That deck is a ticking time bomb, and if he doesn't bait out the supposed second equality soon, then TicTac might just win the Fatigue War. So I'd like to see more stuff going around. Although to be fair, 12 damage in hand is, on board rather, is a decent threat already.
It is. He has so much gas left over though, with between the Jades that he has already, plus the second Spirit Echo.
Yeah, that,
Like he can afford to keep developing here and eat an equality and keep going. He knows that a third equality wasn't discovered. He doesn't know exactly the cost of the card because TicTac healed to full off the Ivory Knight, but he knew it was 6 or more, right? So he still knows he only has to beat 1 equality this game.
interesting to me that he chose to play the Jade Spirit there over Aya, because Aya is more resistant to equality because of the Death Rattle, but smartly neglecting the hero power that turn just because Spirit Echo is in hand, and there's not too much room for all of that stuff, and you definitely don't want a totem clogging up your hand here. So this seems like it's going to be the best Tyrant that TicTac is going to get, but you know, Sequinox not too worried about that.
I think the Spirit Echo is the reason why he held Aya as well. I think he wants the Aya Spirit Echo just to hit at the same turn, just to keep nailing Ayas like consistently, right? Because if you just drop Aya and get a Spirit Echo on it, there's actually no interaction the Paladin has to stop you getting a second Aya at that point.
For sure.
Right?
So it's just gonna be some awkward trades, but nothing Sequinox is too sad about because he's consistently just pushing the pressure, and TicTac's still holding onto that Tyrion. He does have second Tarim to kind of deal with most of these threats, but not the Death Rattle off the Aya, nor the Spirit Echo refill. So, ooh, Sequinox just gonna go for another one. This will not stack on the Aya, but it still seems pretty good to get the Jade Spirit back right away as well as the thing.
There's no Echo on the Aya right now. This will be the first one.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. The pause that turn, he was pausing this turn because like he traded off one minion because he's worried about hand size. Then he was thinking about whether he wanted to trade off the Crystalline Oracle because that like represents 2 draws off the Spirit Echo. But TicTac realizes his battle for value is not getting anywhere this game and just gives it up. And that was a mammoth game 1, ladies and gentlemen. But settle in because we've got up to 4 more of those coming up.
Yes, I hope you're all as excited as we are. Anyway,
this is what you wanted, people. When you cried for better control cards and worse aggro, this is what you wanted, and you finally have it.
TicTac sparing us the Fatigue War casting, as we don't get to see exactly how many cards are left at all times, but definitely something that both these two as control mains, people who love to bring control all the time, will know that try and not waste your energy on games that aren't going anywhere. So we've still got a bunch of games ahead. So Sequinox now has his shaman out of the way, which means he's remaining with his own paladin, I believe, and a freeze mage as well. So
yep, and TicTac from his side has all 3 of his decks, assuming that his Jade Druid has gone down, which we believe is pretty safe. He's got his own hybrid, freeze, Gunter Mage, wherever on the spectrum you want to place these mage decks these days, and then N'Zoth Shaman and then N'Zoth Paladin to come up. The TicTac Shaman is actually his big advantage in the series, right? It's actually probably the greediest deck out of all 6 of the remaining decks left.
yes, it is a Jade Shaman, but it also has N'Zoth and White Eyes, so that N'Zoth would theoretically bring back an Aya and a White Eyes as well. So on the flip side, though, it doesn't run as much healing on it as Sequinox's Shaman. So we did see that Shaman get out of the way, but if TicTac's Shaman were to queue up against Sequinox's Mage, then TicTac might have a bit of a harder time getting through the Alexstrasza.
See, I keep trying to find a silver lining for TicTac in the series about how he can get through, and he just isn't there, is it? Like, he has at best like 1 favorable matchup with each of his decks, but some of them have 3 unfavorables. So like he's just such a high percentage to lose the series overall, and he needed to get off to the best possible start. Like it sounds dumb, like it sounds like it goes without saying, but he really needed the 2-0 start without winning with his mage, right? And then just have maximum chances at winning an unfavorable with his mage.
Yeah, for sure. And the reason we say the mage is so unfavored is, one, because Sequinox's shaman had so much healing, and the Zoth shaman naturally also has a lot of healing, and Sequinox's own mage runs an Eater of Secrets, which is not seen in TicTac's deck. So can't wait to see what they queue up next, but let's not count TicTac out yet.
Yeah, and when you tick off like the burn win condition out of like the hybrid mage, then suddenly you come down to, okay, maybe you can just stick a huge board with Medivh. Well, you can cross that one off as well because every deck runs Harrison to be able to deny the Athiesh value.
True.
So that mage is just gonna have a real hard time. Like we spoke to TicTac beforehand, and he felt like his best chance was the mage mirror, even though the other mage plays Eater of Secrets. Like, that's how bad his position is.
Yes, that should tell you how unconfident TicTac is feeling. And ooh, he seems to have queued another one that is not too favored for him. The only natural healing in TicTac's shaman, I think, is double Jinyu. He can somehow discover additional Hot Spring Guardians and such, or maybe Spirit Echo his Jinyus, but then that takes a lot of work because you need to kill them off before you can play them again. So it's up to Sequinox to be able to burn out TicTac before that happens, or to TicTac to somehow mount enough of an offensive to make sure that Sequinox doesn't have time to just leisurely drop Alexstrasza.
Yeah, we saw a lot of this kind of matchup in the early weeks of Hearthstone Global Games, and they kind of played out exactly as you just described it, where the shaman was just being super, super greedy, waiting to draw, you know, both Jinyus and a Spirit Echo, but then the mage would just respond to that by going, okay, well, like, I freeze your board and never kill it, and then, like, you just have to volcano your own board, and it just gets very silly.
Yeah, so Sequinox kind of whiffing on the early Arcanologist draws, but he does have the Arcane Intellect and stuff to do in the coming turns. TicTac, not that he has much early game to begin with, but he at least has the Jade Spirit followed up by Hero Power into Thing from Below to kind of start the offensive. So yeah, not surprised to see this draw coming out here. Sequinox wants to just get to that Alexstrasza and make sure that he has enough decent removal to deal with the small threats coming from TicTac. But oh, TicTac actually choosing to go for the Thing from Below, which I kind of like because the only direct answer here is Fireball from the mage.
Yeah, actually, I really like this because I actually didn't realize coming into this, I guess he's not playing Halazeel, right? He's just run. So with very little healing, as you were saying, he actually needs to pressure, right? Like the full heal shaman where you have Hot Springs and Jinyus and Halazeel, like you can actually play the inevitability game with mage and you just wait and heal out of range and Spirit Echo your stuff and you have enough time. Without that option for TicTac, he needs to pressure. So yeah, I mean, turn 4, if your option is develop 3 power or develop 5 power, I take the 5 every time.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sequinox has a really clean board clear here with the Volcanic Potion combined with Frostbolt, and he can already coin out one of these high value 7s next turn. Not that he just wants to tempo out an Antonidas.
Just jam it. Just believe! Is it coin time? Can you just go double secret? The fact that, like, the 2 7s are in hand, so, like, coining a 7 does seem reasonable, but, like, as you said, one of your 7s is Antonidas, which you, A, don't want to coin out in tempo, but B, you also want to hold the coin for, right? So
yeah, it seems decent to just develop double secrets here. I don't think the counterspell particularly wants to land on anything, except maybe the Hex if he's planning to just jam out the Antonidas, but TicTac will most likely play around that counterspell anyway. I don't think there's much point in trying to save the counterspell for something like a Spirit Echo because it's too difficult to proc for a TicTac once he has the Spirit Echoes on his own Jinyus, which aren't even in hand yet. We're talking about cards that haven't appeared. So Sequinox would like to have more card draw. Playing the Acolyte means that he gives TicTac the leisure of deciding how many cards Sequinox wants to draw, but I wouldn't mind just seeing it played out here.
yeah, I think actually if the Acolyte was going to be played this turn, which is definitely a viable option as well, I think I would have liked it to come down alongside Counterspell instead, because Acolyte is actually one of the premium Devolve targets in the deck, right? So if you go Acolyte Devolve, you actually give them a very awkward turn to be able to do that.
Okay, it looks like Sequinox instead chose to set up for his Volcanic Potion, so TicTac still not gonna try and roll Spell Power, instead just develop that guaranteed 2 threatening damage on board that will survive the Volcanic Potion slash... I'm sorry, I was talking about Volcanic, but I meant Blizzard. So it seems like it could be the play for Sequinox here. But honestly, this isn't so much of a threat that he could just take the time and draw. It's not like TicTac runs the bloodlust of his own in the deck.
I have question marks about that blizzard.
Our girl's best friend.
That was a freeze that does not mitigate a great deal of damage in that spot whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, you could justify it by saying he has a Nova in hand anyway, and he knew he would top deck the second one, but yeah, I feel like he could have taken the time to draw there. Looks like he's gonna go for it here and follow it up with a Frost Nova.
Is he
Possibly Frostbolt.
Is he scared of overdraw last turn? Because if he'd have gone Acolyte Pink, he would have had to coin a 3 to get more cards out of his hand, whereas this way, doing it this way round, he gets to play a 3 without using the coin, keep his coin for Antonidas. I guess there's a little bit of sense to it.
Sure, so TicTac, no Devolve in hand, so he doesn't have the premium answer to Acolyte. He definitely doesn't really want to hex that, so it seems fine to just develop a White Eyes.
Does he have secrets left? Does he play Barrier in his deck as well? It's 2 block, 1 counter spell, right? Is there any other secrets outside of that?
Not as far as I know, so... Wow, just... Alright, going for the Tony Nova here, so this is the hex for sure, and Sequinox just pretty much making sure he has the money in the bank past the Alex turn. Not quite in hand yet for Sequinox, but TicTac is not able to kind of limit Sequinox's block here. So.
Hey, free damage.
Yeah, or...
TicTac, on the other hand, did sequence his Maelstrom Portal correctly. It actually used to be a lot more complicated than this. It's 100% straightforward now, which is minions happen first, spells happen afterwards. That's just always correct.
Yep, so actually missed out that Sequinox would overdraw there, and Arcane Intellect, pretty useful to try and get to Alexstrasza sooner. And we see now that there's no Frost Nova in hand for Sequinox, so looks like he might have to spend some of these fireballs dealing with the board.
Right, and that's the thing, right? This is why, like, rewind all the way back to that first Blizzard, I was like, well, that really didn't prevent a great deal of damage.
Yeah.
He's used back-to-back Frost Novas on the turn after that, and now he used a Blizzard to mitigate, what, 6 damage? And now he's missing a freeze to deal with, how much is that, 16?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this Firelands needs to roll a ton to kind of help out, but not quite, so he might be tempted to just Frostbolt off the 3-3. Dropping Doomsayer will mitigate at least 7 additional damage, but with no real card draw in hand, just the Arcanologist's pseudo card draw, he is on a serious clock to get to that Alexstrasza.
Probably about as good as a Storm turn as you're ever going to get.
Yeah, I could see that. And probably followed up with another White Eyes.
This is kind of the flaw in the, like, Doomsayer will always at least reduce 7 argument, right? Is that sometimes they just have minion-only damage spells that change that plan. It doesn't do it. Yeah, and I just think that in this matchup, that's about as good as the Storm everything gets. Just slam it there. Now you have a clean trade. You get to push 2 extra damage or 3 extra damage, removing the 0-1 taunt as well. Yeah,
and TicTac able to trade off his less threatening minions and drop that Manatite and get even closer to his Water Speakers. And we did see him pick up a Hot Spring Guardian off of Stonehill, so that is going to be, if he draws everything that he has in terms of healing, an additional 15. So even past Alexstrasza, Sequinox would kind of have to gather another 30 damage. From Sequinox's perspective, though, he's thinking about whether he has enough time to even look for the Alex at this point. Is it possible to just start chucking face damage, which doesn't seem like the best play because he hasn't seen a Jinyu at all. But with...
Does he run Pyroblast?
Yes.
He does, and then he still has 2 glyphs left, right?
Yes.
So his source of just additional damage if he just starts straight up burning is reasonable just in terms of counting to 30, but he probably has to count to closer to 40 in this matchup,
exactly.
Right?
The end is coming!
So now he's faced with a very lackluster Doomsayer turn.
Time runs out on me.
TicTac drawing ever closer to the Jinyu Water Speakers. He could even drop second Mana Tide, although I don't know if you ever go full Tide.
Wow. Adapting old memes to 2017. I like it.
Thank you. I try.
Is the Archaeologist going to come down here just for a 2-3 to try and stick if the Doomsayer gets dealt with again? No. Yep, no additional secrets left.
Right, so Jade Claws provides TicTac a convenient way to deal with the Doomsayer. He could develop the White Eyes alongside it, and looks like he is gonna go full tide. Yeah, at this point it seems like even drawing an additional 2 every turn, you won't get too fatigued before Sequinox.
TicTac might feel with like the back-to-back Doomsayer attempts, he might feel like there is an Alexstrasza like in hand for Sequinox that he's trying to set up here, and in which case he thinks his time's very limited, right, to draw through to the rest of his healing. Which is why he's just desperately scrambling for card draw as hard as he can.
And that provided a much needed source of card draw, the fact that TicTac played a Jade Claws there, but Sequinox still not picking up the Alexstrasza. He at least got the Glyph for an additional freeze card. The Blizzard comes back. Medivh probably not going to do too much in this game.
It's kind of interesting. Does he want the Ire on 2 HP if he's going to cast Blizzard? I guess it's trading either way, so it doesn't make that much of a difference. But it's just interesting that was the ping target.
So TicTac thinking about whether to trade here to respect Alexstrasza. The thing with Mage is that even though you're at 30, the second you leave minions up, your opponent just sees the light at the end of the tunnel. They slam the Alex, and suddenly the fact that you didn't trade means that it's like you're giving the Mage another fireball. So I think TicTac gonna go for the halfway, develop a taunt instead, get rid of the bigger threat, and then push face with Aya, which I quite like. Sequinox in danger of being popped next turn, but he does have the Blizzard in hand.
Spirit Echo finally picked up for TicTac, which is, you know, soft extra healing with the hand that he has right now, but he just has Hot Spring Guardian. Like, if he already had another Jinyu or something in his hand, then Spirit Echo would look like a much better draw, but it's much, much more important that he actually gets to the Jinyus right now than hits the Spirit Echo, which is just way too slow to counteract, like, Alexstrasza in to kill you next turn. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing you mentioned about putting the Aya to 2 is actually very awkward for Sequinox now. If he plays the Blizzard, then the Death Rattle off the Aya, which is now a 6/6 Jade Golem, would have to be fireballed away. Unless Sequinox wants to gamble and say that maybe TicTac doesn't have extra damage.
Yeah, he can Valet Blizzard if he wants to reduce the damage, but Valet is kind of useful for like extra damage to face right now. Not only like it's extra damage over a course of turns, but it also gives him straight up 15 in hand after an Alexstrasza with 5/5 on Medivh Valet. So it serves multiple purposes in terms of face damage right now. Yeah, I just really don't like that ping last turn.
Actually going for Medivh here. That seems
So kind of you to join
Greedy?
Yeah. I mean, this is essentially putting Sequinox... I mean, he put himself on a 2 to 3 turn clock. He does have second ice block, but he knows that TicTac will definitely pop him this turn, and TicTac can very comfortably hex this Medivh, and he has drawn into the Jinyu Water Speaker, so it's on Sequinox to draw Alexstrasza, and even if he does in the next top deck, I don't think he's gonna get there because of the healing.
Yeah, this is just enough now. When you can go Water Speaker, Hot Spring Guardian, Spirit Echo in the same turn, you do so much. Like, you get the extra healing, which is obviously fantastic. That's step number 1. Then there's a taunt in the way of the Alexstrasza, which presents a problem if you're not dealing with that in the same turn. And then if you don't die immediately the next turn, you just have that Alexstrasza on board that then you then trade the Spirit Echo minions into, and you just heal again.
For sure, and this Harrison looks really sick, but I think even without that, TicTac had Sequinox in checkmate, because he's gonna be able to pop Sequinox this turn, and even if Sequinox top deck the second Alexstrasza, he wouldn't have the time to develop the second block. So even popping at 5, this is just too much on board.
There's a phrase that you may or may not have heard, though, which is when there's a glyph, there's a way. There is still a glyph remaining in the deck, which can make magic happen.
Alright, so that overdraw not gonna matter at all. So looks like this is gonna be Ice block, maybe pop the Aya, then go for Blizzard. Hope like he will have the block survive, but oh, never mind. There's second Jade Lightning in hand for TicTac, so this is, I don't know what Glyph can get at this point.
With a hand of 4 fireballs, yeah, I don't see it either. Like, normally the very easy answer is third ice block somewhere, but it needs to have been done before this point.
Yeah.
Like, if you can go... Like, 1 mana Frost Nova, 1 mana Ice Block are usually the big, like, trigger points in making really weird broken stuff happen.
Yes.
Like, Alexstrasza Frost Nova same turn, or, like, Alexstrasza Ice Block defensively in the same turn. Like, all kinds of craziness can happen, but... Yeah. I think we are donezo. I think TicTac is squaring up the series from this point.
Could be, let's say, Glyph into Cabalis's Tome into second Glyph, which then gets him a third ice block, and the other stuff off the tome
infinite loop!
are like, yeah.
The fire
like,
bat infinite loop!
It always if the Cabalis's Tome always gives a second Glyph and a second ice block and some other card.
It's, bolt, block, tome, and then you just loop that forever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's Sequinox.
We found it!
Woohoo! Congratulations. Always sad to see the volcano blow off the board when it's not on the Ungoro board. So fun to make that go off.
Wait, what's the difference on the Ungoro?
You can make the actual volcano go off.
Oh, at the same time as you cast volcano?
Yeah.
I see.
You gotta roleplay that.
That is way too much roleplaying for me, Gio. I'm sorry. I'm out.
Devolve.
Why you just randomly say devolve?
Because this game is over and I've got nothing left to say.
Fair enough. We'll just go with that. Oh, there's the Alexstrasza right on time.
Sure, if Sequinox heals face, TicTac actually can't kill Sequinox yet,
That's
but...
hilarious. Oh, control decks, why are you so silly? Why can't you do 2 damage from hand? What's wrong with you? This is not how you play Hearthstone.
Yeah, so TicTac could trade off, honestly, but I don't see the point because, like, he's seen the Alexstrasza come down and it wasn't on his own face. So he could just set up a wall of 1 taunt, sadly. And, yeah, he's seen double block as well, so the only thing we'd be thinking about is Glyph at this point. Trading off seems like it would be 100% against everything against the Glyph anyway.
I agree.
Glyph
I think
loop.
trading off is probably just marginally the safest play in this position. I think people misuse the word safe in these situations quite a lot. Like, the safest thing you can do is make your opponent blow up, right? Like,
True.
that's the safest thing you can possibly do in Hearthstone. But in that position, just not taking that 8 to the face just stops any ridiculousness happening.
Yeah, and it makes sense because TicTac has double healing in hand anyway. So, yeah, this has gotta be GG for Sequinox.
So he has 24 in hand, plus another Medivh's Valet that's dead because he has no secrets remaining in his deck,
Yeah.
plus another Frostbolt, plus a Pyroblast. Is that all the damage?
Yeah, I think from his perspective, he's gonna go double Fireball Ping Face
Yes,
and
I
just
think so too.
hope that both Jinyu are in the bottom 2 of the deck and
Right.
that the Stonehill discovered something that wasn't Hot Spring Guardian, but he's gonna get the bad news as soon as he goes for that. There's no way he can spend fireballs to deal with these minions. It's just delaying the inevitable.
I think there's a Firelands left as well, right? We
Possibly.
saw one go into Darkscale Healer. I don't remember another random minion hitting the board.
Alright, yeah, so even more reason to just start chucking the burn to the face.
Yep, I like it. He's using 1 Antidotus Fireball and 1 regular Fireball, which is an interesting decision in its own right. Here we go.
Don't
Spirit Echo
face
number 2
TicTac.
time.
Woohoo!
Which will still only draw in 4 cards for those of you at home worried about overdraw, which isn't even a factor at this point, but Double Spirit Echo does not stack on the same.
Moment of truth. Is it gonna be the loop?
Time. Oh! Get him! Get him!
Roll.
Bolt block tome. No, unlucky.
Alright.
Oh my god.
So it's gonna go up 1-1. Both players with their shamans out of the way, so gonna see some mage and paladin battles here. Mage mirrors are very difficult to cast, but I'm a newbie caster. What do you think, Swaddle?
About the Mage Mirror in general, it's tricky. I mean, there's a lot of it's just a lot of turn counting, really. Like, that's what it comes down to. Neither deck really is able to make a huge board presence, although when we were talking to TicTac, he says that's one of the small advantages that he has in the Mage Mirror.
Right,
one of the
because he
reasons
runs-
like he feels like he can get through is because he can actually Mana Worm curve them.
Yes, exactly.
And Sequinox is not able to do that. But if that game plan fails for one or both players, then suddenly it's pretty much just a classic Freeze Mage Mirror, just with more varieties of damage. Like,
And
there's-
glyphs.
And glyphs, yes, which always make games of Hearthstone delightfully exciting. But when you throw like Firelands Portal into the mix as well, then suddenly the numbers become a lot more difficult. Because, you know, we all know about like the self-ping face thing to play around like certain damage ranges and stop yourself getting ice block propped.
Sure.
But when there isn't just 6 and 3 that you're dealing with, it's actually a lot harder to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the fact that Firelands Portal itself presents another source of RNG, so you could roll things like Corrupted Healbot, which if your opponent is able to somehow suicide it, could help them heal back up. Or even just ruling a Doomguard, which gets you a delightful extra 5 damage, which we saw in one of the games earlier.
We did.
Not in a mage mirror, I think, but...
No, it was yeah, with the opening game of that series. I think it was mage versus paladin off the top of my head, but yeah, it doesn't matter. Firelands Portal does have a lot of variance in it, especially when you are just using it as another burn card, because you're quite often racing in those scenarios. You quite rightly pointed out Corrupted Healbot. Then there's also like Bomb Squad that can come back the other way, right? So the difference between those two cards is kind of ridiculous.
Variance Portal, guys.
But the Shamans coming out of this probably hasn't impacted the series as a whole too much just yet. I mean, the way Conquest works is that there's kind of important matchups and unimportant matchups. Like, the results of some matchups are really only influence the outcome of the series by 5 or 10% sometimes, which sounds stupid when you only have to win 3 and that's one of them, but that's kind of the case, as TicTac appears to be just seeing the Matrix right now. Wow!
Right.
How do you beat a man that just sees the Matrix?
In the Paladin mirror of all things. Red pill, blue pill. Alright.
It's either that or he's actually a Terminator and he's just booting up right now.
Okay, so TicTac done with the mulligan, and he has some pretty important cards. Steed and Stonehill provide some value, but yeah, in this kind of mirror, you would actually just keep some really heavy stuff like Tyrion and Curator as well. So Sequinox has his Tyrion ready to go, and a bit of decent early game as well. So we could be in for a really long one, guys.
We could. I mean, I feel like we can pretty much say that going into any game of this series. They have 2 of the greediest lineups in the entire tournament. Getaway Kodo is the grindy option offered here. Redemption versus Getaway Kodo is always an argument that you have with yourself, but it's like generally like mid-range Paladin decks will favor Redemption sometimes a little bit more because they're more tempo focused. They want to stick stuff for kings, etc. But when you're playing the Zoth, if Getaway Kodo's there, you just take Getaway Kodo.
Alright, so Sequinox gonna do the play that we're gonna see the most in this matchup, which is Hero Power Pass. Although, at some point we're gonna be seeing some Hero Powers neglected once the Getaway Kodos / Redemptions get down. So, options off this... Oh, that's Tarim.
TicTac's been nailing his Tarim consistently. Saying that, in the Shaman matchup, Tarim is okay, but not spectacular. It's probably like the one kind of bad matchup for Tarim because they're so wide on the board almost all the time. But yeah, in a full control mirror where it's just big chunky minions against big chunky minions, Sunkeeper Tarim is
Absolutely. I always find it funny when the Stonehill drops the Silverback Patriarch as one of the choices. It's like, oh, you could have the lesser version of me. Anyway, TicTac kind of was happy to drop down that Burn Bristle, which is awkward for Sequinox to deal with only the weapon, but that Kodo lines up perfectly here. Sequinox runs double Stampeding Kodo, whereas TicTac only runs one, so the other one could still be coming out for Sequinox to deal with something like a Doomsayer at an optimal point.
How do you feel about using the Kodo there with the Aldor in hand already? I guess you mentioned he does run 2, so there's a decent chance he picks up the second one at some point.
Yeah, true. And I feel like it's just a good tempo play, get rid of that Burn Bristle without too much problems.
Reporting for duty.
Classic. Wow, actually going for the healing.
Okay.
That's a little bit spicier than I expected. So the fact that he's giving up 1 forbidden healing means that maybe he's not planning to go for the ultra grindy fatigue game.
Yeah, I think Forbidden Healing, when it does get... I mean, if both of these players set out to go to Fatigue, then you're talking about, like, turn 7, turn 8 of Fatigue, right? That's where you're hitting.
Yes.
So Forbidden Healing isn't even that much time, even if it heals for 20 when you're fatiguing for 8 or 9.
Yeah, it's about an extra turn at most.
Right.
Both players do run double Forbidden Healing in the deck, so can't really blame Sequinox for playing it out here, as if it's ever going to be useful, it's not going to be for a long, long time.
Kodo picked up for TicTac as well.
Yeah, that 4-mana Hydrologist. I mean, 6-mana Hydrologist for 4/4.
I guess this is one of the reasons why Sequinox just chose to keep his Kodo on the board through the rallying blade of TicTac is that he didn't want to have to fall behind on the board this early on, which he would have done against really any of the curve plays from this point from TicTac. He wants to be able to continue to contest minions, because then you deny your opponents. Tarim, you deny your opponents. Spike-Rich Steed, it's much harder for them to just tempo out ahead of you.
Yeah, so this is an interesting spot to maybe drop Doomsayer after trading off the Ivory Knight, because then he could get a empty board for Tyrion, but it does seem like a bit of a waste of value since he has his own Kodo. But doing this seems like he's just going to drop the Aldor, because I thought it was between using his weapon and the 1/1 to clear off the Ivory Knight, or kind of setting up for a Tyrion the turn after.
Well, there is a getaway Kodo in play right now, right? So Sequinox is trying to deny this Ivory Knight being the target, and also, as you mentioned earlier, when that secret's in play, suddenly your turns as the paladin get more awkward, right? You can't hero power because you don't want that 1/1 going back to your hand. So I think he's just leaving the getaway Kodo up and just hoping it makes TicTac's life awkward right now.
Okay. So Steed coming down, and that's Steed Deception. Always funny to see that come down in the Ivory Knight. How would that look like a knight riding a knight?
Wait, a knight riding a knight?
I mean, oh wait, it rides a... No. The steed is a dinosaur, right? But it's called a steed.
Yes.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, a steed is just like the name for the thing you ride. Your steed could be a horse, it could be a pig for all you want.
The things you learn from English people.
You're most welcome. Your English is phenomenal, by the way. I know we've had this conversation,
Okay,
but I was actually asking Gia, like, do you actually have like English American parents or something? Because I don't know, I'm blown away. As an ignorant Englishman that speaks one language and then not even that well, I'm always blown away by multilingual people.
Thank you. I am the token SEA caster for this event.
Wow!
No American enemy at
Wait,
all.
do we not count Australia these days?
Not in Southeast Asia. He's JD is APAC.
It's
for sure.
APAC,
Yes.
right? That makes sense. Yeah.
All right, so the Tyrion coming down on probably the best board it's gonna get here, just contesting that 6/6. But TicTac has this Aldor to be able to deal with it cleanly, except that the Divine Shield. Oh, never mind.
Kodo.
Yeah, Kodo.
Yep.
Nah, haha.
JK.
I'm a little blind.
And I think like the real like divergent point of this matchup is where Sequinox chose to try and deny the getaway Kodo, or not even like a premium getaway Kodo target, right? Like, sure, Ivory Knight's good, you'll take it as a getaway Kodo target, but it's not Tyrion, it's not Tarim, it's not Stonehill Defender. So the fact that he denied that and then just let Spike-Ridge Steed just happen and follow that up, which was the whole reason I thought he healed his Kodo up so that he could keep contesting Spike-Ridge Steed from happening. It's allowed TicTac to just get so far ahead on tempo, and now he's just backed that up with the outdoor Kodo play. He's just miles ahead right now on the board.
Yeah, the only question now is how much he wants to push this advantage and possibly walk into some sort of mass removal. But even if he doesn't, pushing 6 a turn is definitely more than enough. So every Stonehill from TicTac gets a Tara.
It's 27%, is that right? It's 24 or 27, one of those two, to get like any given paladin dude from Stonehill Defender, Tyrion or Sunkeeper Tara. So 3 in a row is pretty unlikely, is what I'm saying.
I don't want to do the math on that. Thank you for not asking me to. So yeah, TicTac.
There's only one caster that I deliberately bury, and it's not you, Jim. It's just Raven.
Haha. So from Sequinox here, he could go for a consecration.
I like it.
Yeah, it clears off 3 things, although the Ivory Knight will drop a steed.
I think he needs to get some kind of grip on this board before he starts like slamming this off and getting Tyrions back, because like the natural Sunkeeper in the deck plus Stonehills that have just kept being jammed are just so likely that TicTac has Sunkeeper Tarim. Like one Sunkeeper Tarim.
Look at that difference in Stonehill quality though. That's that's not fair.
I guess I'll take a Tar Creeper, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so from Sequinox's spot, like one Sunkeeper Tarim in TicTac's hand is very, very likely, right? That's the inverse of what we're saying. The 3 is very unlikely, 1 is very likely. So Sequinox doesn't want to just jam N'Zoth into an existing board and just get Sunkeeper Tarim.
And also jamming N'Zoth without having had a Cairn or an Infested Tarim, which I think is in Sequinox's deck, feels kind of bad. This matchup definitely relies on value, and so far, ooh, that Harrison drawn, although TicTac would have to coin first or play some, rather a secret first or something cheap if he wants to get that without overdrawing.
It's actually awkward. Yeah, you'd have to like redemption Harrison and then find something to
You
play
could
off.
throw the coin and just not
true.
get the extra mana.
It's true.
Oh, actually going through. Alright, just to trade off 2
This works,
minions and
yeah.
get through the Junes here as well.
belongs in a museum.
This actually lines up really well. Goes back up to 9 in hand, deals with the Doomsayer, keeps the board. This ticks all the boxes.
Ticks.
This tacks all the boxes.
Alright, so yeah, unfortunately, Sequinox is his own Harrison is just sitting in hand, and he would love to be able to draw into his Cairn and Tauren just so he can charge up this N'Zoth, but there's just nothing he has in terms of mounting an offense, so just being pushed onto the back foot here. Does he ever feel like it has to be a N'Zoth sooner than later? It doesn't look like he can outvalue TicTac, especially the fact that he had some really lackluster Stonehills.
Right. And he's now out of Stonehills, so like he hasn't. His Tyrion's gone, and he hasn't redemptioned it or getaway codoed it. His Stonehills have gone, and same, he hasn't refreshed those as well. So his ability to outvalue TicTac, who has done all of those things and got infinite Tyrants off them, yeah, I think he needs to find some way to start pushing if he's going to win. But I mean, how do you even reverse the board state with this hand? That just doesn't work either, right?
Nope, and it's not like he can go for fatigue either. Yeah, the decks are about.
Well, the
looks
problem
like
is
off the straight,
the
yeah.
bottom one is actually sliced more off the screen,
Oh,
so it's
really?
actually super hard to tell.
Oh,
Yeah.
things that Sottle would know for sure. Okay, suddenly it looks like with that one draw, the top deck got a lot smaller. So they look like they've drawn about the same amount of cards.
Seems right.
So given that, it's not like Sequinox can go for a super greedy and slow plan. It's just taking way too much damage, and note that he has used one of his forbidden units.
If we see 3 Tyrants on the same board, I quit. I give up. Cheers, job yours. You can have it.
Raven, get in here, save me. Alright. So that is one draw off the Harrison. I feel like you have to take it as Equinox here. If he gets Cairn in the next draw, I mean off the Harrison or off the top next turn, maybe he has a chance to reverse the board with N'Zoth, but we see TicTac has the equality in hand along with the Primordial Drake, so TicTac has basically everything he needs to walk away with the win on this game.
It's looking borderline like a wrap here, and I think the big point here is, like I said right at the start, TicTac needed to get himself into a 2-0 position ideally. And I talked a little bit about, you know, important wins in Conquest and unimportant wins in Conquest. This series is all framed around TicTac's mage, right?
Yes.
Like, he has to get that out of the series. So 2-1 is the middle ground. Like, he gets to his mage at 2-1. That is the middling ground of what he could have done. It means he has to win one of 2 bad matchups. He could have had 3 shots at it. We are talking about like this game like it's over, but the dominance of the early game from TicTac has been as such that it really is looking that way. So you just kind of have to reframe around that mage.
Yeah, the early game and 3 Tyrams will do that. I mean,
Yeah.
Sequinox has only seen 2 so far.
Update 4.
4, oh my goodness, yeah. You hate to see that as
Reporting for duty.
Right, so is it going to be Cairn? Not quite. Looks like he might have to just go for a Hero Power Steed or something like that. This isn't a board that you want to go for a Pyro Equality on. It's not nearly enough damage.
Nope.
Tempo Grime Street, you could make an Argent Squire.
Reporting for duty.
Damn, that value. Sick.
Pay, I protect.
Oh, the power of these plays from Sequinox.
I don't know, man. He is not one with the Stonehill.
He really is.
I guess the power of the Matrix is
I
getting
told you!
Yeah.
TicTac is a Terminator. He just powered up at the start of this game. How can you beat that? Again, TicTac is just pretty much deciding the exact nature of his victory here. Like, he knows he pretty much has this wrapped up. He just needs to make sure not to do anything completely comical to throw this series. and just pick a line that he sees that wins the game and stick to it for the rest
Yeah.
of the game. That's pretty much all that's left at this point.
On the bright side, we haven't had much in the way of disconnecting, which is a first for Southeast Asian majors.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow.
As far as I've heard, but yeah, we got a really sick venue this time and a great production team.
Nice.
So hope you guys are enjoying it as much as we are.
That bright side was a real tangent, but you found one. I like it.
Part of the job description. Okay, so Sequinox has 1 Tarim. Woohoo!
Ah.
I wonder.
This is just an embarrassment of riches on one side, and then Sequinox.
Embarrassment of riches is one of the most common caster phrases. Or
Is it really?
yeah, I don't know. As somebody who's mostly been a viewer, I feel like I've heard it so much. The other thing was like leverage, but that's just a word. Although I feel like you guys have used it less recently.
Okay. I'm getting caster feedback live on air right now. This is awesome.
Alright, so this is the best that Sequinox could have done. He actually successfully reversed the board state, but nothing that TicTac's too worried about. Yeah, sure, 5 damage. He's at 23. He gets his own Cairn before Sequinox does. So it looks like
Has
TicTac...
redemption in hand as well. Like, oh god. TicTac, stop. He's already dead.
Reporting for duty.
This is Tarim number 3 coming down.
Yes.
Sequinox doing a remarkable job of keeping a straight face despite seeing the 3rd Tarim.
Well, we'll see how he feels about the 4th one.
Maybe-
TicTac played the right one,
yeah,
right? He
yeah.
played the codoed one on the right-hand side of his
Yes,
hand?
yes, yeah.
Let me.
Is it the 4th Tarim that is the straw that breaks the camel's back?
We will see. We'll see if Sequinox looks like a broken man after the 4th one comes down. How, like, real talk, how do you find a plan with this hand, this board state,
Oh,
as
is he
Sequinox
not
in
going
this?
to hero power? Oh, right.
He's gonna outdoor and value trade afterwards,
Okay,
more
sure.
tempo, yeah. This does seem better. He has to push, right? It's just the only way. He has to make this kind of play. It's like 1% to win the game, but 1 is infinitely better than 0.
Going with this, it seems like he's just gonna drop the N'Zoth no matter if it's just 1 Tyrion that comes out of it.
Right.
And he's gonna get the bad news that TicTac has both equality in hand, 1 pyro to go with it.
And a cheap spell to proc the Divine Shield, and then
Yep.
a quality away afterwards.
Just a matter of mechanics. So, take your pick of good plays here, Sodom.
Yeah, TicTac just has to be careful he doesn't end up taking too much damage here and, like, losing to the 2nd Ashbringer, right? That's the only way I see this game going wrong.
Yeah. Even Forbidden Healing and 2nd Ivory Knight in hand, though.
Right.
It's just too impossible for Sequinox to come back from this. Let's drop a Cairn and Redemption and trade away, yeah.
I was thinking that, but that was available to him last time. He kind of passed that up, and he might see that redemption as just kind of what he needs to deal with the Tyrion when that comes down, right? If he is going the Pyromancer route, but now playing the Pyro this turn, kind of needs away from that. But I'm guessing he's got the read on like a N'Zoth setup at this point. He's saying, well, if you N'Zoth, you can't clear this Pyro.
That's true, and it makes a lot of sense because Sequinox is definitely out of steam here, and having the 2nd equality in hand seems like it might be fine, so...
Does TicTac want to go preemptive Tyrion now? It's preemptive N'Zoth now? Is he... Wait, he didn't even play his Tyrion now yet, right?
Ungoro.
No, I'm dumb. Yeah, he didn't
Yeah.
play Tyrion. Sequinox has to go! What's
Yeah.
he waiting for?
It's his only choice.
He's gonna find a way. There we go. Alright. Equality Consecrate and the ability to trade through the Divine Shield and the Death Rattle, respectively,
Yeah.
means that TicTac has the clear available to him. He can even drop Doomsayer after that now and then just redevelop Cairn and then curve into N'Zoth that way if he wants to do that. TicTac just has the world at his feet right now.
He actually could have traded the 3/7 into the Divine Shield for Tyrion and still have it live, and the 3/3 into the 2/3.
Had a 3-1. Yeah, 3-1 and a 3.
Yeah, not that it matters. Yeah, he does look like he's a little bit stressed here, but it's a really, really minor thing.
It is.
And rewinding a little bit, I don't think Sequinox even flinched seeing the fourth.
Oh
Tavern,
yeah,
my
I
bad,
wasn't.
yeah.
I wasn't on Suicide Watch on the fourth Tavern.
Can we say that on stream?
Probably not. I don't know.
Take heart, young one. The Earth Mother is near.
Yeah, can developed, and honestly, the Zoth plus a can might just be enough to lock this up at this point.
Might.
Everything's so black and white. I mean, there is an 8-8 that he's dealing with now.
Yeah. I mean, he can just bring back the his Karen after trading it, and then afterward heal up for tons and tons. Or yeah. I mean, there's no immediate reason to play the N'Zoth there as well.
Right.
And he just rips the 8 healing every time as well.
And a Dynasize, which means
Yeah.
that his 1/1s now demand to get cleared every time.
Yep.
Because Sequinox will probably know. Like, again, this is not a matchup where you take Lay on Hands most of the time, right? So the only other 8-mana card available is Dynasize.
Still no Tyrion or Tarim for Sequinox.
That is just really unlucky.
Yeah. Not that it matters at this point, but that's just insane to see the difference in the power level of these Stonehills.
Can't play around Dynasize, so might as well just ignore it completely and jam the face. If it was Dynasize and not Lay on Hands, that thing's going to get you anyway, so...
Well, playing the Burn Bristle means that Dynasize won't be enough to get through everything to get to the Light Lord, so that's a thing. That means that Sequinox will be able to deal 13 damage to TicTac's face next turn. There's no direct sources of damage though, so like TicTac will definitely still have time to heal up.
Does Pyro Dynasize ever clear? He casts 0 mana Forbidden Healing afterwards. It does, right?
Pyro but then the other recruit dies, right?
Yeah, well, he's already traded that one out of the Divine Shield. You Pyro, you Dynasize the recruit, you trade the can into the 1/4, then you cast 0 mana Forbidden Healing. The 2/2 Burn Bristle's dead, and then the recruit kills the 8/8? I think?
Possibly. Wait. It's so difficult for me to rewind when it's not on board anymore.
I am
So
actually
he-
really
alright,
terrible
alright.
at reconciling
No.
those.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. So there were 2 recruits, the Cairn, and was that it on board? One other.
2 recruits in the can, that was it.
Okay, so if he plays, what were you saying? Pyro
So the 1/1 recruit clears the Divine Shield.
on the Burn Bristle, yeah.
On the Burn Bristle, you drop the Pyro, you Dynasize the other recruit. The
Okay,
Burn Bristle
okay.
is now a 2/1.
Oh, there was also a Stonehill Defender on board from
Yes, the
Sequinox,
can kills the Stonehill.
but then you have to get through the
Let
remainder
me
of
think.
the Burn Bristle, or were you saying to play 3 spells that turn?
No. So
Oh, okay, recruit plus
spikes the shield.
yeah, then Pyro.
Then the Dynasize proc does 1 damage to the Burn Bristle. The 0
Okay.
mana Forbidden Healing does the 2nd damage to the Burn Bristle.
Oh, you play the Forbidden. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
2 spells. Yeah, what is possible?
I think we got there
Yeah.
in the end. The better question is it necessary? And TicTac probably could see that play and just decided, you know what, I'm not going to die in this spot. I'd rather just like tank this damage, and then instead of using a 0 mana Forbidden Healing to heal for 0, I can just use that same card to heal for 20. So why don't I just tank the damage?
Okay, so the Light Lord lives to see another day, unless TicTac wants to go for Pyro Healing. Oh, never mind. Pyro Healing.
And that is pretty much the last hurrah for Sequinox, right? Like, give him credit. He very, very nearly found a way with a horrible hand, a horrible draw, and horrible Stonehill defenders in this matchup.
And suddenly the stone face breaks up, and he knows that this one's over.
Well, Alright, if that Kodo just connects 3 times and there's no healing, and then you Rallying Blade him in the face, we found a way. Yeah,
In spite of it all.
Put your face
There we go. That's what we've been waiting for the whole game. The final nail in the coffin, or the straw that breaks the camel's back, as you said earlier.
I really thought that 4 Tyrants would be enough, but Sequinox is a trooper.
I mean, I'm actually really impressed with how he found a way. Just with that one Light Lord off the top, he said, okay, this is an 8/8. I'm going to do everything I can every single turn to just stick this to the board and hit him in the face with it until he dies. It's the only way I win. And it was actually really, really close in the end.
Most he can deal to face here is 3, but that would mean giving up the equality, and there's no way he can do it so that the Kodo is able to get rid of the 1/1 before the equality, so there's just no clean way. And yeah, at this point, like, I feel like there's enough cards that have been drawn that Sequinox knows that there's a forbidden healing in hand.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so
I'm almost out of cards.
yeah, there were exactly 2 left. I've done it, the caster thing. Where you guys kind of predict how much is left. Like, there's about 13, 12, and they hover over and it's actually correct.
Nice.
Getting there.
The sign of a true casting professional. Finally, Sequinox's death rolls start to come out to him way, way too late. Like, again, I can't actually stay... Like, you know, I am one to try and advocate for players just playing really well where available. This has just been a really, really lopsided draw in a control matchup. The only hope here is if Sequinox has like a huge group of cards left, like 3 or 4 plus at this point, to try and find a way to win on fatigue. Even then,
Don't think
doesn't
so.
look good.
Yeah.
I'm almost out of cards.
Neither of them runs too many additional sources of draw aside from Curator, right? Yeah.
So it's going to be a quality Consecrate, then it's going to be N'Zoth and TicTac,
Yep.
and that the game just locked up.
Reporting for duty.
Does he have enough? Does he have to Pyro clear first and then N'Zoth afterwards? Yes. Yeah,
seems like.
Yeah.
So he needs to make sure to... Alright, just gonna Doomsayer instead.
This is better. Has to Doomsayer first. I'm sure there is at least one order lull in the chat right now. At least one. Has to be done though. And that's not a great last card to have.
The victory.
There you go. It was a long, hard road to get here, but in a game for TicTac that was honestly won about as early as turn 5 or turn 6, the nature of the control mirrors just means that you have to drag it out to the inevitable inclusion. And the important thing was something that I said about 10 turns ago, which is TicTac just had to make sure he didn't catastrophically throw, right? Which you could have done. It's only a small miss sequence in that position that would honestly skirt by like the majority of people watching. If you just like misallocate one resource that's supposed to go to a specific card and then you find yourself wanting for it in the late game, that can actually lose you that game even from that like favored position. TicTac didn't do any of that. He nailed it all down perfectly. And now we've got the mage, finally.
This is the clinch, or what's the right
Clutch?
point? Yeah. It's just a very important point. Like, it all comes down to this. TicTac has been saying from the beginning that he needs to get the win with this mage to just be able to be home free. The fact that Sequinox's remaining decks are, yes, this paladin, which we saw has double forbidden healing, and there's no way that Sequinox will use those healing cards as loosely as he did in the last game. I still find it funny that, like, looking at that last game, N'Zoth was the very last card in hand for TicTac, and he didn't even need to play it for Sequinox to know he was done.
Yeah, I mean, it was important that it was there. The reason that the concede came out is because he knew it was just N'Zoth next turn, so it was essentially the game-winning card, but yeah, the fact that it was never played in the matchup, whereas Sequinox is just forced to jam it out really, really early for very little value. That was just the big difference, but that's kind of what Sequinox's hand did at that point. He just had to get some kind of tempo.
Yeah, that's the power of the Matrix for you. It seems like Stonehill just plays such an important part in these control mirrors. Like, the fact that you can have an extra 2-3 cards along with those other secrets just seems like you're running an additional 2 cards in your deck. And you know, the fact that Discover is so powerful because, you know, you can get a second legendary and all that. And we saw the variants on that as well. So, getting into the first of the most important games, Sequinox actually chooses to queue up his own mage, which...
I like it.
Yeah.
This is respect for the tournament admins, the staff, the commentators, and his own well-being. He's going to leave his free roll guaranteed matchup for later on. If TicTac is going to win the series, he's going to win it now.
Yes. So TicTac gets his wish with the Mana Worm on 1, but the rest of his hand is looking very, very unusable. Whereas Sequinox has the fabled Arcanologist on 2.
Incredible discovery.
Yes.
So that is looking like a pretty sad Mana Worm with only an Ice Block to buff it
Really is, yeah. And the Ice Block here just not good enough to really allow the Mana Worm to contest effectively. It means Sequinox has the tempo here in terms of how he wants to deal with this Mana Worm, whether he wants to ping it off, whether he just wants to allocate his mana more efficiently on a 3-play, but does choose to deal with it so that a second spell can't come out for a value trade. And push number 1 for TicTac, and as I said, when we spoke to him, he said that's one of the ways I can win the Mage Mirror is I just Mana Worm him, because he doesn't play Mana Worms, but that was not enough of a Mana Worm to really make a difference in the matchup.
Right, and one of these slots taken up by Sequinox giving up the Mana Worm is that he has a Harrison in the deck, which we mentioned a while ago, so even Medivh is not a guaranteed threat for TicTac if it comes down early. I mean, we see the Harrison in hand for Sequinox already, so pretty much has every answer that he needs, just needs to make sure that he doesn't get burned out too quickly, and that's not looking like a problem because he has the board. So TicTac could probably ping off this 2-1 and follow it up with feels kind of bad to valet just the face, but I feel like he has to go for this pressure like this.
Yeah, he can do it. He's not winning a long game here. Like, if it comes down to both players drawing the majority of their deck, and then like the Ice Block exchange that you see in like classic Freeze Mage, Sequinox wins that every time because he has the Ear of Secrets in his deck. So TicTac actually has to be as aggressive as he possibly can.
Yeah, Sequinox has everything he needs. Alexstrasza, which you keep in the mirror, Harrison to answer. The Medivh that might come out. Oh, that is a Tome though.
Hello.
So the Infinite Loop is now a possibility for the other party.
It's true. Yeah, and just Doomsayer pings face because he understands he was about to lose the board there, make sure that doesn't happen, and I'm pretty sure this is just setting up Fireland's face next time.
Yep. And we talked about all those possible outcomes from the Fireland, so it's going to be quite important to see what comes out of it. Earth Alley, Doomguard. Yeah.
Leroy.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Earth Alley, I think, would actually be pretty great because Sequinox doesn't have a 1-card answer for it.
Sequinox plays a random secret here, which is honestly just a bamboozle play. Like, obviously, there's like Spellbender into this board does absolutely nothing always because it's only minions, but he just wants it developed for the future, and he also wants to give TicTac the fear of counterspell for potential Firelands. But TicTac doesn't bite, just goes ahead and slams it, gets paid out big, does the 3-5 damage, and takes the board back, which is also the important thing because he needs to keep little pieces of chip damage going through as well to back up the burn in hand.
Right, so this does seem like a lackluster Firelands Portal drop, but it kind of prevents Sequinox from just dropping his own Firelands Portal. The 6 health is relevant, so now Sequinox spends a turn just to remove this, as he understands he's the one playing defensively here. As long as he makes sure TicTac doesn't get any form of quote-unquote bonus damage from minions hitting the face, then just how the numbers add up with the burn damage in TicTac's natural deck, he should be able to outlast with Alexstrasza. And, not that everything aggregated in TicTac's burn spells is not that it's not enough, but by that time Sequinox will probably have developed enough pressure to kind of pop so that TicTac doesn't have all the time to just throw everything to the face.
Right. And also, like, when you end up going defensive Alexstrasza in this matchup, you also limit the amount of turns your opponent has because you just have a freaking 8/8 on the board, right?
Yes.
Which makes a big difference. So they can't really spend 2 or 3 more turns to then set up a burn plan again while you just connect for 8 damage over and over.
You can't hide.
I saw 4/6 and thought it was Halazeel. I freaked out.
Okay. I thought it was Birdly Bully and I kind of freaked out as well. So TicTac going for the not like this pose.
A classic stance of many a Hearthstone player while playing on stream.
Right, so what secrets has he tested for? Just counter spell and
Must be a way.
I believe that's it.
That is it. He hasn't tested even Barrier or Vaporize yet, I don't think.
So not the best tome, but he does have a Shatter to go with the Frost Nova. We're gonna be seeing a lot of freeze next expansion.
Third block is kind of deceptive as well.
Yep.
I mean, third block in the freeze mage mirror, let's just call it that for the sake of simplicity, is usually a very, very good thing, but none of your ice blocks matter when Eater of Secrets is in your opponent's deck,
Exactly,
because you will never get to play the second and third one, because they will just eat your first one on the turn they kill you, and not give you the chance to play the others.
So TicTac now can go for Acolyte and try and draw more stuff, or Fireball to try and remove this 4/6, but there is a spell bender up for Sequinox, so if TicTac tries to remove it, then he'll get pretty punished.
Wow.
I can see it, not too many minion threats from Sequinox anyway.
Sure.
So there's a glyph. And when there's a glyph, there's another glyph.
Pile of garbage. Oh, and a glyph, right. Dude, the Discover thing triggers me so hard. The fact that the animation sticks over the left-hand card for like 3 seconds, it
yeah,
tilts
true.
me so hard. Please fix. There are many things that you should fix,
Alright.
but put that one about third on the list.
You can see just the very right sliver
Right.
of the card, so some of them are easier to guess. Alright, summon another frozen minion.
Okay.
Nah, that's pretty good value. Essentially 4 mana for another 4/6. And Sequinox can pretty much just, I don't know, set up his own counter spell. I don't think you want to Fireball an Acolyte just to prevent card draw.
I wonder.
I would
It
agree.
runs out on me.
Yeah, CS ping face seems entirely reasonable in this position. TicTac doesn't actually have a nice way of dealing with a board of 2 4/6s right now.
No.
I guess a minor thought there, like whether you really want to play Counterspell into
Yeah.
some perceived like Kabbalist Tome garbage that TicTac has in his hands,
True.
but just goes ahead and does it.
Right, so TicTac probably wanting to discover some answers for these 4/6 with the glyph. Or possibly could just start chucking some stuff at the face.
What do you test Counterspell for though, right? Because he now knows
Yeah.
there's a Counterspell in
Yes,
play, right?
yes.
With the second Natural Secret being played from the deck. So what do you throw into it?
Volcanic Potion?
I guess so, yeah. Man, if only Shatter was like usable.
Yeah, like targetable like Shield Slam even though you don't have armor or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah. Just the ability to just throw the
Yeah.
card away.
Yes, like even as rogue, right? If you see Shield Slam, you're like, oh, okay, like I can at least play this
Right.
for my auctioneer turn. But Chatter literally just clogs up your hand and does nothing better. Speaking of, there's another one.
A second one.
More burn seems good though.
Fine.
Does he have time? He's not popping this.
Right, so this is gonna get spellbendered,
Yeah.
and that means Sequinox can actually just. Is there an ice
There is a
block
block
up?
up, yes.
Yeah.
Oh!
Right, that's probably getting fireballed away.
Okay, he got the entire way through that paladin game without tilting, but now the power of created by mage has finally got him.
What to do?
I mean, this is still a fine turn.
It is. I'm wondering whether by TicTac's reaction, just getting back to the serious point, like when he fire-lanced and it hit the spellbender, he really like reacted as if he hadn't thought that was a possibility.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
It is one of those in the hierarchy of secrets you test for. It's definitely in the lower half, I would say.
For sure. And again, I still don't think he connected face with minion damage, so there's still like barrier and vaporize that it
Yes.
could have been in the pool, and it was a randomly generated secret. So.
Not even sure if he had played a minion to test for entity or potion. Calling that.
Yeah, like right.
Oh yeah. So, Sequinox, after playing the valet, actually hesitates a lot. So I'm interested about the order on that, because it's like, if you're hesitating, then you're thinking about playing the Fireball into it, or I guess thinking about which one to trade. But if you're gonna play the Fireball, then you would ping over Valet.
It's worth noting that for multiple turns, Fireball, Frostbolt, Ping has been available for TicTac. We haven't really talked about it, but like he's just fearing that defensive Alexstrasza.
Yes.
Right? That's the problem that he sees with that line of play.
Doing this sets up... Actually, using the Frostbolt now means that the block pop is not available.
Correct.
So he also is definitely thinking about Eater of Secrets, so he doesn't want to just start popping off without dealing with Sequinox's board.
Does he ever have Fatigue Plan in mind? No, he's been playing card draw this game, right? Like deliberately, like dropping acolytes and stuff.
What to do?
So if you're Sequinox, how bad is just throwing the Pyro at the face?
This is an excellent question.
The scary thing there would be TicTac, I guess, playing his own Alexstrasza on his face? Or you're not even scared of Medivh because you have
I wonder.
Harrison.
I think it's fine. It's just whether Sequinox really feels like he needs to be the aggressor in this position when he has kind of the defensive line locked up at this point. But the more of the like checkboxes you can mark off before you go through your Alexstrasza, your Eater of Secrets, whatever it is, like that Pyro can't be played on the same turn you Eater of Secrets, just to get like an obvious point out of the way, right? So like with that done, now when you draw Eater of Secrets, you just have the guaranteed win on the board, right? Where you just go Eater into Fireball and it's just job done.
And TicTac with double counter spells in hand, and he plays a secret. Okay, one of them, and going for the not like this again.
It's not there.
Yeah.
It's not there. Breathe, TicTac. It's not there. He doesn't have it.
Not quite yet.
So now TicTac needs to draw Alex and defensively Alex just to get out of range.
Yeah. Does Sequinox ever want to spend a Frostbolt to deal with a 2-3 here? Of course, smartly drawing out the counterspell first with the coin. We saw a bit of a gaff with that a while ago.
We did, yeah. The old jam your Spike Ridge Steed into a counterspell with coin in hand play. The classic.
So, Frostbolting away the 2-3 would be in respect of something like Fireball, in which case that one card alone, along with the ping and the minion damage, would be enough to pop Sequinox.
Right.
But how worried is he about being popped as he has second Ice Block and defensive Alex? I feel like he kind of just wants to drop his defensive Alex already just so he can have that threat.
I really wish I knew like exactly how many cards Sequinox had right now, because at that point it becomes very easy to solve this game. Like, you know how many guaranteed turns you have to live, and you know when you draw Eater of Secrets, you win the game immediately if TicTac doesn't self Alexstrasza. So it actually becomes a very linear equation to work out how to win the game if you know how many cards are left. So I'm sure Sequinox is spending his turns doing that right now, because he has information that we don't quite have available to us.
Right, so going for the Frost Nova achieves the same thing of protecting your block even through a Fireball.
Yes.
And saves the burn in hand, so I do like that.
TicTac will just not play Medivh this game.
Yeah.
Now that he knows Eater of Secrets plus burn is not in hand, he does not want to give Sequinox card draw with Harrison to get towards that.
Exactly. So this could be the turn.
Value!
Oh, still not an Eater. So Sequinox can think about, yeah, he actually just does want to drop this Alex one way or another, but make sure that it still gets the value. So he might just leave himself open to being popped at this turn. Or maybe ping off the Acolyte so that just Fireball won't be enough to pop him. I mean, TicTac can set him to 1, but you're perfectly fine Alexing at that point as well.
Yeah, if it just protects an entire ice block, that's just one more turn, that's one more card that you draw from your deck that could or could not be Eater of Secrets. So.
It feels bad to chuck burn at the minions, but the thing about leaving the minions up is basically in mage, when you're opposed to a mage, the minions being up is just bonus damage. It's damage that they shouldn't deserve to have.
Right.
With everything that they already have in the deck and on the cliffs. So Sequinox respects that and just clears off the whole board. Definitely going for the slow game then. Just waiting for his Eater.
There's the Alex, alright. Oh dear.
Stormpike, man. Alright, that's some much needed card draw for Sequinox. Is it gonna be Eater or...
Well, the problem now is that TicTac's kind of beat him to the punch with the Alex
yeah,
Straza.
Exactly. So having seen that, yeah, Sequinox is content to just drop the Harrison now as an additional threat. It sucks that it dies straight up to a 4-2.
Yeah, there is literally no world in which you play Eater of Secrets this turn, just because you then allow them to get value out of their second dice block, and it's just a completely wasted card at that point.
So TicTac needs to drop the Alex here on his own face, otherwise this is over. So I'm very confident that he will...
So yeah, self-Alex, hit face, book the 1, and just hope your clock is good enough at this point.
Oh, he just going for the trade,
wow.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that because the Alex most likely connects anyway, and he has all this other burn to pop from.
That's
as long
true.
As it's not
Yeah.
From
He has right. He has enough cards that it doesn't matter that he has to use an actual card each turn to pop the block. Yeah.
Right. So Frost Nova actually a very significant draw from Sequinox there. That means it kind of protects his 5/5, at least from the damage on board.
Frostbolt the minion, pop the block. Just gonna work him down.
Probably pop it 4, yeah.
Okay.
Ping first makes sense.
He could have gone Medivh's Valet instead, but now that he's had to use the Frostbolt on the minion, he needs to keep that Medivh's Valet as a third source of damage to proc after the second ice block as well.
So the question now is if there's still a Frostbolt remaining in Sequinox's deck, because he's forced to play the block this turn.
Yes.
And that means he's also just going to ping to set TicTac at 9, which means that the combination of cards that he can play with Eater of Secrets in one turn is Fireball, Frostbolt to deal with this. It can't be Valet because this block will be popped again by TicTac.
Right. Again, it's one of those situations where I really wish I knew how many cards he had left exactly, because then I could give you actual percentages on things.
What to do? What to do?
Just thinking about it, when has Sequinox... He used one Frostbolt a few turns ago when it was 2/3 and an Acolyte on the board and he dealt with it.
2/3.
Did the first one get used? That is the question.
Chat knows.
Chat knows everything, Gia.
What to do?
I expect just to see a ping to face coming out here. Dealing with the 4-1 just does... It accomplishes nothing.
Yes.
Oh, actually... Okay, yeah, going for the Fireball now makes sense as well, because if he has something more expensive to go with the Eater... Yeah, it's just better, my bad.
I'm
So...
almost out of cards.
Now the combination can be like Eater plus Glyph into something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he's going to Valet to set to 1. That gives him ping for the rest of the game to deal with it, unless there's defensive
Or
Alex Straza. If there's defensive Alex Straza, he keeps an 8/8 on the board, and then he has Pyroblast to finish.
You are on fire.
Good. Is TicTac actually going to beat Eater of Secrets this game? It's going to come down to this. This is crazy.
Epic.
Sequinox. A man who has been slowly getting more and more tilted this game.
So playing the Fireball there allows him to go Intellect into Eater into something.
Oh my god!
That is not it though, so that means TicTac's gonna take this game.
Yes, it does. That is incredible.
Yes.
TicTac said he had a way. He said that Eater didn't impact that much if you knew how to play around it, and that he had a chance with Mana Worm. The Mana Worm did not get there, but he has played around Eater of Secrets incredibly well this game.
It was getting that Alex right before Sequinox drew